Hello everyone and welcome back to 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership. Today we have Sevenoaks versus GBG Knights, a huge game when it comes to relegation. My name is David D and joined with me as my co-commentator we have the winger from Middlesbrough PFC, Thomas Pettigrew. How are you, Tom?
Absolutely brilliant, David. A pleasure to be joining you for this relegation six-pointer, as you say. Incredibly tight down the bottom end of the league. From a Middlesbrough point of view, we managed to put an extra point worth of buffer between ourselves and the jeopardy spots with a well-earned draw against Villa Rockets, game just gone. For these two, huge game. 2 points separate them. GBG find themselves on 5 points, Sevenoaks on 3, Sevenoaks with a better goal difference. So that means that if Sevenoaks get the victory here, they will jump ahead of GBG and into 10th in the relegation playoff spot. Massive game for both sides. Buzzing to be alongside you, my former teammate, to call the action.
Yes, for those who don't know, me and Tom spent a season together playing for what was formerly known as Sale United in the 23-24 PTC Therapeutics Championship. But today, I'm very intrigued. There will be key battles in the game. Jack Ewins versus Kyle Alexander, Oscar Smedley versus Stanley Ball, Kai Shah versus James Mason. The question is, who will win their battles?
That will determine the result of the game. We're underway here. As we get underway, I've just noticed that Kai Shah is adopting the most defensive position, and Oscar Smedley is being pushed out onto the wing. Change from GBG Knights' earlier match that I saw. So it will be interesting to see what Smedley can offer in that wide position.
Yeah, I think this morning when I watched GBG Knights, Kai Shah was playing that defensive role, and he did that very well, to be fair. But Jack Ewins, a player notorious for pushing and shoving you. James Mason clearly has found out about that. Jack Ewins in the corner. Oscar Smedley available in the middle, but it goes to George Holloway.
And that'll be a 2-on-1 there. Ewins and Holloway just didn't observe the necessary 3-metre distance, and therefore it'll be a 2-on-1 and an indirect free kick to Sevenoaks to be taken by goalkeeper in that lovely luminous pink kit. You have to say, it's a lovely kit. It stands out amongst the crowd.
I've seen a lot of pink kits this weekend, to be fair, from the likes of Throssels and obviously Sevenoaks, but hefty contact there from Oscar Smedley and Kyle Alexander. Surprised that's not given in the way of GBG Knights, that Kyle Alexander's just spun on him. Jack Ewins in battle with George Shippey. Driving through George Shippey at the edge of the box. Can Jack Ewins continue to do something? Jack Ewins, hold of this set piece. George Holloway looks like he's the recipient, drills the ball across for cutout, but quickly recovered by Oscar Smedley. And unfortunately, George Shippey cannot control it. Jack Ewins. Oscar Smedley, looking like the recipient option. Driving and pushing through James Mason there. Can he keep it? Unfortunately, he's just let that roll out of play. Tom, this is a very significant match for Middlesbrough.
Indeed it is, yes. It is indeed. Well, I mean, our aim is to sort of distance ourselves from the relegation spots as much as possible. But yes, we obviously got that point earlier on to put a little bit of buffer. But yes, a vital game down the bottom end of the table, in a sort of mini league consisting of ourselves, GBG Knights, Sevenoaks and Muscle Warriors. A vital game for all of those teams. So of course they'll all be tuning in. Well, Muscle Warriors and the rest of Middlesbrough will probably be tuning in to see the action. And so far, action-wise, you have to say GBG Knights appear to be the team in the ascendancy thus far.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Oscar Smedley choosing to full spin it out of play rather than letting it go for a goal kick. Oscar Smedley driving towards the Sevenoaks goal. Still persistent. Kyle Alexander's chair tipping up. It was the same thing in the prior game that I saw with Sevenoaks. He just kept tipping up against Teesside.
Absolutely, you can see that. It must be slightly disconcerting for Kyle Alexander himself. I can imagine that would put me off if my chair was doing that every time I made a slight movement, you know?
Yeah, I think we figured out that his back wheels are not even. But that is just plainly dangerous in my opinion.
Not just for him, but for the opposition. But Kai Shah won't care a jot if he can generate a chance for GBG here. Holloway. Well cut out by Shippey there.
You notice with the lower league teams, they don't seem to get the power and the purchase that the top of the league teams such as Leeds and your Aspires and your West Broms do.
No, it's all about the timing and the technique, and that's something that takes. It doesn't take long to get to a certain degree of comfort with, but it takes a long time to hone and to master to the level which the teams towards the top end of the Slater and Gordon National League Premiership have done so. And there, I think ball was adjudged to have been reversing in quite rightly, and therefore it will be a GBG free kick as a result.
Jack Ewins over this, plays to Oscar Smedley, brilliant ball, great, just cut out by Kyle Alexander. Oscar Smedley, one of the leading championship players last season, top assister, deemed the aggressor on this occasion, just going slightly too heavy into the challenge. James Mason, responsibility of this kick.
Mason will be looking to get his team out of the defensive third and generate some territory for probably the first real time so far this game. Done so to a degree there, and it'll go out for a Sevenoaks ball. This is the first real chance to see the Kent-based side on the attack in this match. Let's see what they can muster up from the sideline.
GBG Knights known for expansive attacking football. Although it's been represented here, they've not quite shown to the levels that we saw last season in the 24-25 Optegra Championship. But heavy contact from George Shippey, played advantage by Paul Pearson. Kicking won by GBG Knights.
And now there'll be a couple of words exchanged between referee Paul Pearson and George Shippey. Quite rightly so. He played the advantage as he should and as is right, but has to come back and give a little bit of admonishment to Shippey.
Kyle Alexander battling with Jack Ewins. Key battle that I highlighted before the match began.
Some strong contact between the pair there, but nothing doing with regard to any fouls or anything, but strong play from both. Ewins brings it clear on this occasion.
James Mason to Kyle Alexander, and he's put it towards his own net. Jack Ewins Very, very lucky that Kai Shah could react in time, but it looks as if the joystick of Kyle Alexander has come off his chair.
Alexander's not having much luck so far. His chair tipping up like some sort of rodeo bull that you see, and also the joystick falling off. He's having an eventful afternoon thus far. Just there, he plays a great pass over towards Ball, but cut out, and it's a Sevenoaks sideline ball to be taken by Stanley Ball.
James Mason to George Shippey, cut out by Jack Ewins. 2-on-1 given in the favour of Sevenoaks. This could be a very credible chance, Tom.
It could indeed, and just as I said a few minutes ago that Sevenoaks hadn't quite, pressed home in terms of developing some attacking opportunities, the last couple of minutes they've really upped their attacking output, and here's a really credible chance, as you say, David.
George Shippey tries to guide it past Kai Shah, still in the dribble. Heavy contact in the box. Paul Pearson waves it away. The Sevenoaks crowd are roaring behind us.
It's what it's all about, David. You love to see supporters, friends, family getting vocally involved in supporting their teams. It's what you love to see.
Kai Shah bullying his way through George Shippey. The kicking goes in favour of Sevenoaks PFC. And on court A, Aspire have taken the lead against West Bromwich Albion. El Clasico in Powerchair Football, and the deadlock has been broken on that pitch. However, turning our focus back onto this court. Kai Shah playing that central role.
George Shippey done well there to bring the ball clear, but Kai Shah fights back and now brings it to the corner. Tries to go towards Smedley, cut out by Ball. Mason and Ball with some deft touches, and they bring it clear. Well played there between Mason and Ball, you have to say, and well won as a sideline, which is cut out by Shah.
Heavy contact from Kai Shah. Twice that has happened. James Mason feeling the brunt of that.
It appears to be James Mason that, I was going to say receiving some words from the referee. I think that was just to check whether it was okay. It is definitely Kai Shah that committed the foul, and it will be a Sevenoaks free kick as a result of that, which Mason himself will take.
George Shippey. 2-on-1 in favour of Sevenoaks. Again, we saw them have a very credible opportunity beforehand from this. Can they turn this opportunity into a goal?
They'll be hoping to. As you say, they generated a great chance, and it was just that finishing touch that was missing. They'll be hoping to add it here.
It goes to Stanley Ball, saved by Jack Ewins. Really good on the line. Goes out for what should be a Sevenoaks ball, but the referee is always right.
Yes, that's my catchphrase as well, David. The referee's decision is final and always correct. That's what I live by. Now, whether I believe that when I'm on the court and whether I always act like that, that's a different story, but that's what I try and act like.
Yeah, I think our cup game between each other highlighted my belief that on the court is one thing and when you're spectator it's another. But Oscar Smedley driving towards that Sevenoaks defence, but it's a 3 in the box.
A 3 in the box, which at this level is probably the most frustrating foul to give away.
Stanley Ball really annoyed with himself there. You can see he's really angry with himself.
Absolutely. And quite rightly so, as harsh as that might sound. At this level, there is absolutely no need for Stanley Ball to dip into the box there. And it could come back to cost his team.
Oscar Smedley over the ball. George Holloway on the other side. From bumpered into Kai Shah, saved by James Mason. Not before 2-on-1 is given in the favour of Sevenoaks.
You have to say Sevenoaks perhaps got away with that to a certain degree. They give away the 3 in the box and straight back at them. GBG Knights give away a 2-on-1, which they'll be disappointed with themselves. But you have to say that doesn't take away from the fact that the save made by James Mason was an expert save, and he'll be proud of that and can take that confidence regardless of the fact that the 2-on-1 was given.
Oscar Smedley. Can he get it through the gap? He can, into George Holloway, just can't connect with it.
Expertly blocked off there, the central region from Kai Shah. Holloway, as you say, just couldn't get the connection that he would have probably wanted, and he'll be disappointed with that. Mason with a good ball.
Stanley Ball across. Just didn't have enough power on it.
No, he didn't, but Sevenoaks stay on the attack. Well mopped up by Smedley. Takes it into contact with Mason. Gets the better of him on this occasion and brings it into the Sevenoaks half.
James Mason again battling with Jack Ewins. Nothing really to separate these teams, Tom.
No, a very tightly contested match, and both teams have had spells of attacking pressure, but you have to say overall the game's been relatively 50-50 and probably a fair reflection of the closeness between the two sides. In terms of the league table, Holloway there looking to send it back to Jack Ewins across the top of the box. Just a swing and a miss on that occasion from the GBG Knights number 11.
Yeah, unfortunate for George Holloway there. Would have liked to see him connect the ball, especially considering he is playing in the top division of English football, but Kyle Alexander lets it roll to Jack Ewins. Two and one given in the favour of Sevenoaks PFC.
Sevenoaks so far have done a good job in terms of these sort of mid-court free kicks that they've had. They've done a good job of generating credible goal-scoring opportunities. Let's see if they can do so once again. Not on this occasion. It's easily cleared by Ewins, but a full spin from Mason. Saved by Shah. Smedley.
I would like to see George Holloway in that instance come and pick the ball off, but as I say that, he completely ignores me and nearly gets it right.
Indeed.
What do I know about Powerchair Football?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, David, but since you brought it up, no, I'm just kidding. But yes, a Sevenoaks ball now to restart play with a sideline. Ball towards Shippey.
If you were Sevenoaks in this half-time team talk, Tom, what would you be saying to your team?
I would say, let's just let this attack happen for GBG. Well cut out by James Mason with the back of his chair. But yes, I'll get back to that question, David, but let's let GBG finish off this attack as they almost find the gap. And George Shippey now, cut out by Ewins. Smedley. Ewins towards Holloway, well cut out by Mason. Picked off. Holloway. Ewins. Smedley, and it goes slightly awry for the Gloucester-based outfit as Sevenoaks find their way up the court. Yes, back to what you were saying. So far, if half-time was right this second, and I was a Sevenoaks coach, what I'd be saying to my players is more of the same, really, because in attack, they've had some really credible opportunities from set pieces, and it's just that finishing touch that is missing. So I would have belief in my players that they can add that, but it's important also that from open play they perhaps have a bit more cutting edge and a bit more accuracy on some of the switches of play to generate more chances from open play, as well as the credible opportunities from set pieces. George Holloway attempts to pick off. Now attempts to bring it to the corner. Ball does well there. And Shah mops up. Still in. Shah leaves it for Holloway. Picked off. Shah. Swinging a miss from Shah. Ewan seems to lose his bearings for a second. And Shippey bears down on the GBG Knights number 18, and it goes out of play for a Sevenoaks sideline ball.
Yeah, you'd expect Kai Shah there, considering his well-known and documented quality, to be connecting with that strike. However, he is in defence now, battling with Stanley Ball in the box. He's got to be very careful not to give any contact away.
Well marshalled from Kai Shah there. Sorry, David. Yes, well marshalled from Kai Shah there. Brings it clear. Leaves it to Smedley. Shah. Smedley again.
I like the idea, I'm not going to lie, from Smedley. Really promising idea, just to spin it into the gap. Just couldn't quite connect with it.
Really shows a high level of Powerchair Football IQ, if you will.
And that is the half-time whistle. So far, very cagey, very tight. No, neither team wanting to give any goals or chances away. At the half-time break, it is 0-0 between GBG Knights and Sevenoaks. Join us for the second half with me and Thomas Pettigrew. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second half of Sevenoaks versus GBG Knights, a key battle when it comes to the relegation, automatic or playoff spot. My name is David D and I'm joined by Thomas Pettigrew. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing well, David. Yes, thank you. Pleasure, as I said at the beginning of the match, pleasure to join you for this relegation 6-pointer. So far in the first half, you have to say, both sides have had spells of territory and chances, but neither have been able to find that finishing touch to find themselves ahead thus far. So 0-0, probably a fair reflection of the opening 20 minutes. Both sides will be looking to do what they can to make sure that that is not the case come the end of the 40. Both sides appear to be unchanged from those that both started and ended the first half, and Kyle Alexander is just about to get us underway for the second half of this vital Slater Gordon Premiership match.
No, 100%. I think GBG Knights going into the half will be looking at the table, will probably be the happier of the two teams, still in that playoff spot. Sevenoaks, for them, it is vital for their survival that they can get the 3 points here.
Absolutely, David. As you say, we've referenced the table at the beginning of the stream. We'll reference it again now. As it stands, there's a 2-point gap between these two sides as Oscar Smedley tries to find the ball across. But yes, a 2-point gap between both of these sides. GBG 2 points further ahead of Sevenoaks. So, as you say, should it come to it, GBG would probably be the happier of the two sides should the match end with this scoreline. Probably more vital, as you mentioned, for Sevenoaks to do what they can to get the 3 points. But both sides, really, even GBG will be looking to pile the pressure on and give themselves a little bit of that buffer. So they certainly won't be sitting back, as we see here, as Smedley takes this indirect free kick to Sharp.
Oscar Smedley looks like he's now taking that middleman role, maybe a breath of fresh air for GBG Knights. Jack Ewins, a hold of the set piece. Looks like it's going to go down to Kai Shah, who can't connect with it.
He'll be disappointed with that one. Disappointed. That's now twice in similar situations than that we've just seen that he's swung and missed, which happens to the best of us, obviously. It really does. But he'll be disappointed that it's happening in a game of this importance. Obviously, you can't time your mistakes. If we could all just eradicate them entirely. But if you could time them, this is probably one of the games where you could really do with making as few mistakes as possible. So he'll be looking to just shrug that one off and continue on, as I've no doubt he'll be able to do, as the ball trickles out there for another GBG sideline ball, this time more on the halfway line than around the box as the previous one was, but Ewan's still the taker.
George Shippey driving it out towards Kai Shah. Very physical player, isn't he, Kai Shah?
He is indeed, but he has the skill to get that ball moving, and personally I believe that if GBG are to really set their sights on the 3 points here, that's the sort of style they'll need to implement. Ewins, Smedley across, well cut out by the back of the chair of James Mason. Shah tries to switch it quickly across to Oscar Smedley, just misplaces it, it goes out of play. Shippey just can't control that ball down the line, and no sooner had it went into the play for a Sevenoaks sideline as it goes out of play once again, this time for a GBG sideline.
If you're a GBG Knights here, you would be feeling the pressure, the cost, just to get that goal, which could secure you a playoff spot, or even challenge the likes of Middlesbrough with yourself, Thomas.
Yes, well, as I mentioned in the first half, the way the league and the points are distributed thus far, it's more or less a little mini league between ourselves, these two sides, and Muscle Warriors. Of the four of us, two of them will probably go down automatically, and one will be in that playoff. Personally, of course, Middlesbrough and myself, we're doing all we can to finish 9th and secure that safety completely, as are both of these sides, however. And it's great for the league as a whole that we have such a tightly contested battle at both ends of the Slater and Gordon National League Premiership.
George Shippey flicking it back to James Mason, who has an effort, driving it into this bottom right corner, wins this sided kick in.
As we mentioned earlier in the first half, David, a lot of Sevenoaks' best opportunities thus far have came from set plays. Let's see what they can make of this one.
It goes across to the back post, but George Shippey just isn't there.
Absolutely, it was a great ball across from Stanley Ball, found the gap. Shippey will be devastated that he just wasn't there to apply the finishing touch.
I've seen it multiple times today, wingers just being too deep when they've got them set pieces. They've just got to be, surely, in training you can discuss, right, where do you want your winger? Do you want them to be on the back post? Do you want them to be deeper? And in that situation, he's shaping up to go across. Surely George Shippey would think to be closer to that post. But anyway, we move on, and it's a heavy contact between the man in question and George Holloway. Goes in the favour of GBG Knights. You
have to say, as much as George Shippey will be disappointed he wasn't there to apply the finishing touch, Sevenoaks as a whole will take great confidence for the fact that that gap existed and they were able to exploit it, albeit not to the fullest extent, but it gives them confidence moving forward in the match. And here we have another sideline ball from, give or take, the same place as the previous one. Doesn't quite find the gap on that occasion, but still in control of the ball.
Stanley Ball plays it into the side of Cashar, bounces off his chair. That is something that Sevenoaks need to be wary of. James Mason questioning the ref's decision not to award the free kick in their favour.
Yes, I think James thought that there was some contact there between Shah and Shippey. Shippey in the corner.
George Shippey and Kai Shah. Just stagnated between the Sevenoaks winger and the experienced GBG defensive player. 2-on-1 awarded against Sevenoaks PFC.
Shah done really well there, nice and calm, and eventually got that great flick out to his winger and caused the 2-on-1, which has given GBG this chance. They'll be looking to take advantage.
Can GBG Knights capitalise from this? And the front bumper into George Holloway. Saved by Kyle Alexander, but still in the Sevenoaks half. James Mason smashes it against Kai Shah's chair. Gone to Kai Shah. Just doesn't have the accuracy.
That was risky from James Mason to just fire that full spin, and it almost deflected in a way that cost him. George Holloway done well to keep the ball alive, and Shah just once again, as has been symptomatic of this match so far, David just couldn't find that finishing touch. But once again, there is another free kick here for GBG Knights, and they'll be hoping that I have just put the ultimate commentator's curse on it, and right here they can find that finishing touch as Smedley takes.
To Kai Shah, full rotation. It's just silly. I can't describe another word for it. It's silly, not thought through. But Stanley Ball can't capitalise on the opportunity that they have been gifted.
It looked like there was a massive breakdown in communication there for the Gloucester-based side, and it almost cost them. It almost cost them as Sevenoaks broke up the other end of the pitch and had a great chance to open the scoring themselves. But like you say, that was a great opportunity from that free kick, and GBG, it almost looked like they weren't fully committed to doing one thing or the other. They hadn't fully decided for themselves which set play they were going to employ, and it almost backfired.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Sevenoaks now, they've got to push up the pitch. Do you not think they've got to? Their season is arguably depending on this moment, this game, these last 10 minutes. Oscar Smedley into the path of George Holloway, switched across, nearly found the gap between James Mason and Kyle Alexander, and attempted to be brought away by George Shippey, but Oscar Smedley still keeping up the pressure on court B. It looks like Aspire have gone up 2 goals to the good. Who do you think for the title, Tom?
I think that's the $1 million question, David. I'm not quite sure how I feel about nailing my colours to the mast quite yet. I think naturally Teesside would probably be favourites with their couple of games in hand, but it'll be very tight, and some would argue that it's better to have the points on the table than games in hand. But if Teesside can get the victories in their games in hand, then it's obviously in their hands regarding the other fixtures. But it's going to be a tightly contested battle between multiple teams, just as it is down the bottom end, as we can see here in this match, as the ball goes out for a GBG sideline in their defensive third.
Jack Ewins with the kick in to George Holloway, directed in the direction of Kyle Shaw. Picked off to George Holloway, well saved by James Mason. Vital touch needed to keep his team in the game.
It appeared that Kyle Alexander just missed his spin there, and that invited some pressure from GBG on the goal of Sevenoaks, and therefore this sideline ball, it's just about squirms away. George Holloway brings it back in towards the goal, well cleared out by George Shippey.
Jack Ewins again showing his true physical presence. Goes out for a Sevenoaks, no, GBG Knights kick in.
These are the sorts of opportunities that you've got to look to take advantage of in games like this. David, let's see what GBG can muster. Not much, it seems, as Kyle Alexander brings it clear, manages to win himself and his side a kick-in of their own, which he will remain over to take.
George Shippey. Attempted to play in the direction of James Mason, went a bit wayward, however.
A good flick there, good idea, just overhit slightly, and it invites GBG back in. Well picked off from Shah.
I see the idea from Oscar Smedley, smiling at missing the ball, but
just looked like his spin was a tiny bit late there. He'll be slightly disappointed with that, but like you say, David, the move and the idea and the concept was good, and it's something to build on for GBG Knights in these remaining few minutes.
Yeah, George Shippey dispossessed by the man in question, Oscar Smedley. Left for Jack Ewins, slight miscommunication.
The pick off there from Kai Shah just went a bit too deep. Again, it was the right idea to get in there, be aggressive and pick the ball off. Just a bit too deep, it just didn't find the correct angle, and like you say, David, led to that miscommunication between Smedley and Ewens at the back.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Ewens on the ball now. Calmly controlled by James Mason. Read like a book, like Oscar Smedley. Would have liked to seen Oscar Smedley drive into the corner, maybe get a flick out himself and force the rotation. It comes to Oscar Smedley for the full spin. And it looks like Stanley Ball's chairs switched off.
The referee, however, has no obligation to stop the play unless it becomes dangerous to the other players on the court, so done the right thing. And it looks like Mr. Ball's chair has got up and running once again, which the Kent-based side will be glad of that fact. Alexander looks to bring it clear. Well met by Oscar Smedley.
5 minutes remaining in this fixture. Can either side break the deadlock? Been such a cagey match, hasn't it, Tom?
It has indeed, and that's why, David, as for your question about breaking the deadlock, if I were a betting man, and I am absolutely not, I would probably bet on it remaining 0-0. Because while both sides have had chances, neither have really looked like taking full advantage of the territory which they've created for themselves. No doubt, as I'm saying this sentence, there will be a goal, because that's just my luck when it comes to commentary, but I wouldn't complain. A goal to liven up these last few minutes would be most welcome as Smedley.
He's just gone through to the back post, and Kai Shaw isn't there. Stanley Ball's chair has switched off again. The Sevenoaks manager communicating with the fans. A substitution to be made for GBG Knights. George Holloway to make way for Reese Mallet. And a third for Aspire against West Bromwich Albion. It has been a goal fest on the other court, showing really how El Clasico in Powerchair Football is being dominated by the team looking to win the title. George Shippey in the corner. Tries to win a corner and he succeeds. Tom, we might have to move back here a bit.
We may well be in the danger zone just a smidge. Let's see. We might just about be fine.
I think we'll be alright.
I think we'll be fine if James Mason just takes his time and takes care.
We're either going to get absolutely clobbered or he's going to go through. And he's gone to George Shippey at the back post. Saved by Jack Ewens on the line. Full span into the number 18.
It almost seemed like the extra concentration James Mason had to put on not killing myself and David here on the sideline inspired him, as that was a great corner, just couldn't be finished off. And here is another corner for the Kent-based side. No doubt once again to be taken by goalkeeper James Mason. 2
minutes on the clock, Tom. I am going to ask you to start thinking about your man of the match. I'll be asking you in roughly a minute or so. Hit into George Shippey. Goes out for a kick in. I don't know if you can see, but George Shippey's chair is on very low battery. I don't know if that might be affecting how he is playing, but he's gone to the other end. Kyle Alexander recycling the play, trying to get his team back up to the other end of the pitch. Unfortunately, Reece Mallet cannot capitalise.
Reece just couldn't get the power on that original pass across. He was trying to switch it all the way back to Oscar Smedley, just couldn't get the requisite power on the ball. And Sevenoaks look to bring it clear and up towards the GBG Knights goal.
45 seconds left, Tom. Who is your man of the match?
It's a tough one, it really is a tough one, just as Stanley Ball's chair dies once again. You have to say, it's a real tough one. But this might change my mind if Jack Ewins can have his way with this opportunity.
I don't think there'll be much added time here. It's been very not many stoppages in this game as Jack Ewins fires it across the box, blocked by the brick wall of Sevenoaks. As we hit triple zeros on the clock.
Yeah, to give you that man of the match, I think it has to go to Jack Ewins. He's been incredibly strong in the centre for GBG, and they'll be happier with this result as it ends 0-0 here in the relegation 6-pointer. Turns out neither team can make it such, as they both have to settle for a very cagey 0-0 draw in truth. Your final thoughts and assessment, David?
Yeah, I think I said to Tom before the match, before we went live on air, I saw this game being a 0-0 draw, and my predictions were correct for once. But
which is a shame. We would have liked to have seen some goal mouth action, but
no, of course. I think I can understand it from the two teams, both so much at risk. GBG Knights, I believe, will probably become the happier of the two sides. Frustrating for Sevenoaks, though, with their constant chair issues. But that leaves the league table looking in favour of GBG Knights in the playoff spot. Thank you all that have tuned in. For me and Thomas Pettigrew, join me for the next 4:30 kickoff. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, David. Pleasure as always, my friend.